Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Battle for the Planet of the Apes, directed by J.D. Thompson once again, and it's in 1973 that this was made. Now, here we are with the fifth and final in the original Planet of the Apes films, and of course, going through this set, majority of this set, and yes, of course, here it is, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Just the DVD, unfortunately, but yes. This film, it was the last, of the originals, and basically we wouldn't see another Planet of the Apes film, official, until of course Tim Burton done a reboot of some sort in 2001, which of course is not popular by many people, including me off memory. I hated it, but of course that'll be next, and I've got to rewatch that again, unfortunately. But yes, of course we have the reboot, the trilogy with Rise, Dawn, and War. This one, very, very unpopular. 5.5 on IMDb, so it's the lowest, on IMDb of the whole Apes franchise, and it's generally considered the worst, along with the Tim Burton one, maybe. And there's a couple of lists that have put Beneath as well at the bottom. But I thought that was a mediocre film, that one. And so far, I've been watching these, and I'd seen Escape before, but I don't think I'd seen really any of the other sequels, and so far the originals, and none of them have been bad. I know a lot of people say, of course, that some of them are bad. I don't quite agree with that. Certainly Escape was actually better than I remembered as well, and of course Conquest was not a bad film for me. I think it was decent, and certainly the second half was very good. Basically, yes, this one follows on. It's set the opening bit after the recap, which was very, very unnecessary, showing bits of the other films. You have basically a kind of scene that is very, very far on in the future, basically, and there's this guy retelling, what's happened, and then it goes and he mentions Caesar, and of course, basically it flashes back, and the whole film is basically set after, of course, Conquest, after this nuclear bomb has wiped out Earth and stuff. And basically, the film in a nutshell is really, I'm not going to get into the plot, just watch the film, find out, and basically it involves Caesar kind of trying to keep everything at bay, between the apes, because there's disputes in the film, and some of the gorillas are actually, including the character called Aldo, are kind of, acting out, you could say, and not really listening to Caesar and trying to kind of be more violent, you could say, and of course as well he's trying to kind of bring about peace and stuff with the humans as well. So it's kind of all that, and they go to Ape City, him and a few others. Of course, McDowall is back in the film, who was in Conquest. It was a character I liked, actually. I thought he was one of the good things about Conquest. He's in this film, and basically he's one of the kind of the guys that are with Caesar, on his side, you could say. And a lot of the film, about more than 20 minutes of the film is their journey to Ape City, going to these archives and everything. And yes, basically, I'm not going to ruin everything else, but the first act is very much they kind of see them in the school and everything. And you've got a lot of young apes and stuff, and it's very nice, actually. Although not the most of compelling opening acts. And then of course you've got the travel into the Ape City, and then the rest of it is really the preparation for the battle, the kind of the conflict within the kind of the apes, and of course the humans, and then you've got the actual battle in the last 20-25 minutes. That is the film, really. That's the structure of it, and you could say it's very, very simple in that sense. And of course, Caesar is back, and in this film they basically all talk, the apes, and I was expecting this film to be bad. I thought, Conquest was better than I thought it'd be. So Beneath wasn't bad. So I thought this is probably going to be bad. I can't be lucky every time. But actually, not only is this film for me personally not bad, I actually think it's better than Conquest and Beneath. I think it's actually a decent film. An average film. I think I actually enjoyed it. Overall, it was more consistent and it was better made, I think, than Conquest and Beneath, Planet of the Apes. And it's nowhere near as good as Escape. And of course, it's not even in consideration to be, on the level of the original. But I think actually it's for me a bit underrated. It's not a great film or anything. It's not it's maybe, it's not a good film, what I consider that. It is an average one, but I was expecting a lot worse. I thought overall, I think the things I brought out of this, is actually it was much more consistent than a couple of these sequels have been. It was better shot apart from the actual some of the battle, and it just had a nice peaceful feel at times. It had some campiness, but it was really added to the enjoyability at times. It had just better characters, a more enjoyable kind of drama in the film, conflict, but it wasn't too too depressing. And say like Beneath was at times, and yes, the actual battle itself is a mixed bag. I think the bit of the tanks come in and everything, it's kind of very very generic. It goes on for about 10 minutes and it's not well put together. That's the thing. It lacks kind of a kinetic energy, sharpness. It's very very sluggish, and basically you've not really got much back and forth with the battle. It's kind of just them using the tanks to blow things up, and nothing's really happening back, you could say. And then second half of the battle, you have the bit with the nets and everything, and where the apes actually, are giving back, you could say more. And it's pretty good. Again, it's all, if you think to Dawn and War, where the battles are in that, they're stunning, and in that sense, for a Planet of the Apes film as well, the original amazing action. It is underwhelming. This is called Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and the actual, pretty much, the battle itself was the worst part of the film. So that's not great, but it was the overall of the film. I think had an enjoyability to it. I think. It was kind of thought-provoking, and the best thing about it really was just the, whole thing with Caesar and his family. Him and McDonald together were really enjoyable and kind of warm, and just the whole kind of community, the way they were kind of living together with the humans at first and everything. It was just quite nice, quite human, fairly patient, and it was pretty good. There was obviously issues throughout the film, with the script. With some of the things they do in the film is a bit weird, a bit stupid, bizarre, and of course, the generic things throughout the film. In terms of when they go to Ape City, it's not the most compelling of places, and it was kind of it was a bit boring actually, that part. And of course the battle, there is generic moments, and it never reaches a height that really Conquest does. But overall, I think I did enjoy it more because I think Conquest really, the first half of the film was pretty weak. I enjoyed this, from the start more, and then, yes, the final act wasn't as good as Conquest, but overall, I did like the film a bit more. I didn't, love this film. And of course, to be called Planet of the Apes in some way, it is underwhelming and it is pretty shameful. It's not a worthy sequel. But it's a decent film on its own. I think as a sci-fi film, it works to an extent. It has some interesting ideas. Some of the atmosphere is there, and also the kind of idyllic kind of community at the beginning. You see all that, and you see the kind of niceness of it with some conflicts getting set up, and then of course, when the preparation for the battle starts looming in, it's kind of more kind of meaningful, you could say. And of course, some people die throughout the film, and it kind of means a bit more. But then, of course, the actual battle, as I say, isn't that good at all. It kind of just is very, very underwhelming. And you have got, of course, Roddy McDowall once again as Caesar. Again, very good. No complaints there. Of course, they have a son, him and Lisa, I believe it was. And in this film, she talks as well and everything. And their son is named Cornelius, of course, after his father. So that's nice. And I really liked actually the whole family stuff here. It was very nice and satisfying in its own way. They pulled it off well. As well. Although a bit one note, the character of Aldo, at least he added some interest, to the drama of the film. And the kind of the human villains, although very campy and kind of again one note, they're pretty enjoyable when they were kind of bickering and stuff. And yeah, I think it does have some good editing in the film. At times, not so much. And the music is a bit forgettable. It's not great. It's a bit generic. But overall, I think this film it is average for me. I did like it. I think the final act is probably the worst. You could say overall, the actual battle is a bit underwhelming, very underwhelming actually. And it's just it has got a lot of stupid moments in the film, and it just doesn't really go that far. In that sense, it doesn't really achieve much. But I did like, as I say, some of the characters in the film quite a bit. There was nothing great going on, but the actual the stuff between McDonald and Caesar, and then Aldo, him, and then of course just the family stuff, and just there's another character, Virgil, I think it was. He was pretty good as well, and I just think it was an overall solid film. Decent, average. It was okay. I think I liked it, and a decent wrap up. You could say, but none of these sequels really are worthy apart from Escape. You could say, to the original, and I think as well the bigger bit at the beginning. The kind of the recap, you could say, was a bit pointless. And once again, this film feels a bit kind of dialed down in the violence, you could say, at moments, but. Yeah, I think it's a decent film. I think it's a bit better than Conquest, and I think it's definitely better than Beneath. It's definitely not the worst Planet of the Apes film. I also think the Tim Burton one is a lot worse. But yes, I think, as I say, it's a bit better than Conquest, which I gave a 62, I believe. I'd have to give this one. I was thinking of giving it a 64, but I'd give it a 63. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It was a bit better, really, than of course Conquest. The highs of Conquest were obviously really a lot better than this, but overall, and in terms of just the locations as well, the kind of just the enjoyability of the characters and the kind of warmth of it all, the family stuff, and definitely the direction was better here. Not with the battles. There was much better battles in Conquest, and you could say even. Overall the action was better in Beneath. I think this has definitely got the worst action of probably the franchise. Yeah, maybe it probably has, and it's called Battle for the Planet of the Apes. But it overall as a film, I can't just knock it off because the action scenes are underwhelming. I think the budget does show. It's nowhere near as good as effects again as some of the other ones past, and it's got a pretty generic feel at times in the action and just in the Ape City parts. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it to an extent. 63%, and nothing high from me, but not a bad film. I think it's slightly underrated. I don't quite get how this is. It's got a 5.5, and then the others have got at least a 6 really. And how this appears at the bottom. Fair enough, but for me, definitely not the worst, and not a bad film. No, definitely not. Not a great one, and has a lot of issues. But yeah, a film I kind of liked, and I would probably recommend it. As a sci-fi, as a kind of at times adventure film, and just as kind of digging into the lore and these characters that are mostly actually decent in the film. It's quite effective, and that's all I have to say. I have now, of course, reviewed all of the original 5 films, and of course, next is the Tim Burton film. Sequel, reboot, whatever it is, and that will be reviewed maybe in a few days. And not good memories of that film, and I'll see what I think of it now. I might not think it's horrendous like I used to, but don't hold out for that. I actually. I did put it on my least favourite films list that I started making last year. Top 100 least favourite films. And that's probably just how much because I loved the original and the new trilogy as well. But you'll see what I think. Maybe I was a bit harsh on it, but maybe not. I haven't seen it for years. Probably about a bit less than 10 years ago. I saw this film, Tim Burton one. So. Look forward to that, and definitely really hyped rewatching the new trilogy, of course, and see what I think of them. So yes, thanks for watching my review of Battle for the Planet of the Apes.